care. Even you are smiling. Oh, man. So was this 5 years ago? Was that what that was?
I don't even remember.
It says it was posted 5 years ago, but sometimes that's not was post. Oh, actually, no, it was posted in 2012.
Yeah, it was
I don't know where I got the
quite a
5 years.
while ago. Yeah.
Oh.
Well, you would think, the last 5 years is already ancient history.
Yeah, you would think that 5 years ago it was only 2012, but it wasn't. Oh man.
Yeah, no, that was fun. That was a good time. I think Gene had probably just started teaching there at
Oh,
CSUN at that point.
yeah,
He came on when John DeVersa was also hired to lead the big band, and
yeah, yeah. That was a while ago, wasn't it? Yeah.
yeah,
So for the public, Gene Coy on drums.
that's Kelly Corbin on saxophone, um, and Blake Estrada on bass. Blake was a student at CSUN. He might have still been there at the time. Kelly had gone to CSUN a long time ago. And then after that, he went to graduate school at Cal Arts, and that's where I met Kelly and also Gene.
Oh,
So the three of us were there at the same time. With Gene and was, um, he was a sophomore at the time, so he was 20 years old when I met him. This is going all the way back to 2003,
wow.
and he was already amazing. So Kelly and I, we wanted to play with Gene, and we even formed a band, and we named the band Gene. The band was called Gene. So then we asked, "Do you want to play in our band? It's called Gene." And he said, "Yeah, I'll play on the band."
That's funny.
Yeah, but so there's definitely a history. It was fun to get back together. That might be the last time the three of us have had played, actually, because Kelly ended up going to get his doctorate over at the University of Illinois,
Oh,
and then he moved back to his hometown of 29 Palms, out in the desert, and he got a job teaching high school and middle school out there, teaching band.
oh.
So
Is it? Is that where he is?
yep, he's there now.
Oh,
Uh, just
yeah. I don't know his name. What? Tell me his name again.
yeah,
Kelly.
Kelly Corbin, Corbin.
Yeah, he's really good. And the bass player too. Tell me, because I don't know those guys.
Yeah, that's Blake Estrada,
Okay.
Eric Estrada.
And is he still? He's still here and working.
Yeah, I think he's out and um, playing out and about. I think he was on some cruise ships for a while, but I think he's done with that.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Blake for a while either. I think he lived in Eagle Rock for many years, but
Oh.
yeah. But I love playing with Gene. I've always loved playing with Gene.
Oh yeah, he's perfect for you because of your point of view. I mean, I always say this, and I'm sure there's better ways than I put it, but your sense of rhythm, play with rhythm, has always intrigued me. I always talk about that with you. Not to mention your harmonic sense, but your rhythm is just very attractive to me, and it's like Gene or Mark Ferber or people who don't play on the downbeat all the time. It's fun, it's interactive, it's really tied in to the time. Wow, I mean, I don't know how much. I don't think you can get better than that, actually.
Oh, well, yeah, Gene and Mark are both geniuses, and but the thing about Gene, I think the reason why he and I work rhythmically is that I think for Gene it's not uh, there's an acceptance of a lot of stimulus, going
Yeah,
on. He's able to process it kind of very organically and very quickly.
yeah,
He's actually
yeah.
kinesthetic. He There's synesthetic. He has synesthesia. Like he sees. He said it's not quite shapes or colors. But he said he said he can't quite describe it, but like the music is sparkly to him.
Oh, interesting.
Like there's some other sense He's able
Huh.
to sense music in a different way, you know. And
Huh.
I I've never been one to be real structured, you know, with how I work out rhythmic ideas, you know. Although I guess lately I've been doing
Because of
that.
teaching, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and being trying to put stuff down on paper. I guess you have
Yeah.
to start counting and doing math and things like that, you know, especially some of the stuff I do on the trio. But you know, that it's being able to just kind of throw stuff out there and try to see the end of the loop, whatever it is you're doing. And Gene sees it before I do, or before most people do, right? And so you can kind of feel him setting it up. You know, it's really like Elvin Jones. You know, I think that might be the best
Huh.
uh, famous example of somebody who's able to kind of conceive of these larger waves of rhythm. You know,
Yeah.
and how they can kind of go against the time. You know, and at some point it actually meets back up
Yeah.
with time. You know,
Yeah.
and I always found that really fascinating.
I actually saw one. Well, that moment when you ended up smiling, you were playing, and that actually was happening at that point. It was there was the time was kind of offset of your what you were playing, and then it ended up, and that is such a delicious feeling. You know, God, that
Yeah,
is good. You know,
I think I didn't come out quite right, so I had to adjust to Gene.
really
That
could have
you know,
fooled me, man.
well, I think you see, and I think to some people, you know, that's disaster. But yeah, I think, you know, you have to sort of be okay with uh, kind of seeing if you can hit it. You know,
Yeah.
it's more of a process over results, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
have to push it out there and see if it works out. And you know, if it doesn't, oh well, you know, you'll get back on and figure it out. Um, but yeah, that you know, Gene's always kind of been a resonance chamber for those types of ideas, you know. And so
Yeah,
it just I don't know why I haven't played with him more often, but it's always a pleasure.
yeah. Well, I mean, this kind of leads me just to talk a little bit. Hi, Karen Celeste Cruz. She says hi to
Oh,
both of us. And Roland is on here, and Scott Whitfield came.
oh, Scott, man.
So, yeah, I was just going to mention. So, and I'll play a little bit later, but so Gary and I have known each other a long time, and we played together. And one time in a in a venue much as Barclays, the Oyster House, the famed Oyster House, which had lots of great musicians play there, you know, uh, basically for tips. Oh, Atmaro, hello.
Amaro, hey.
He is so beautiful in his comments. He says Gary's disaster is someone else's career highlight.
Well, then my whole life is a career highlight. Absolute disaster.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But anyway, so I said, "Oh, Gary, you want to play at the Oyster House?" And Gary said yes. And he said, "Well, let's get." I said, "You." I forget how it all worked out, but he said, "Let's get Brad Dutz, the percussionist, the crazy percussionist," and so the wonderful crazy. And so we got Brad, and then probably Gary said, "Hey, let's invite Chuck Manning on tenor." Okay, great. So no bass player, Gary playing electric piano, and Brad with his crazy percussion. And we got to the gig. We were playing, and then Jeff Richmond came in, the guitar player, and he said, "I have my guitar. Can I come and sit in?" And he came and sat in, and the moment was born. And so we've had this group, albeit we have not worked a huge amount, but we've worked every year at least a few times, and we recorded live at the Blue Whale. But it's a very the group is reflects basically what Gary was saying. It's well, I think you used the word acceptance or something, but it's like um it's kind of kids in a play box just having fun and following each other, like, oh, you want to do that? Okay, good, let's do that. Or how about this? Oh yeah, okay, everybody goes there. And it's the time, the elements are not, like it's not a singer, like I'm not going, uh, you must take the A train. I'm not doing that. I'm doing kind of loose. And it's really fun. I mean, that's one reason I just totally love the group, because it has all those elements in it, and it doesn't matter. We could play in another 10 years and get together, and we'd still have the same personality, right, of the group.
Oh yeah, that's a fun band. We've grown as a band. I guess we've been
We
together
have
for.
grown, yeah. That
Yeah.
last gig we did at Brad's actually was really interesting. I did some spoken word, and we did more improvisatory stuff, and it was really fun. And like I was saying, even you laughed at that Barclays gig. Like, I saw you smile. On the gig with The Moment, I saw Jeff Richmond break out into a huge smile over what you were doing. Now that's unusual.
I love Jeff. Yeah, it's such a collection of personality. Just
Totally.
uh, no, it's really fun. There's no other band like that, really. I do nothing that's unlike anything else. It's really fun. And
So
yeah.
this is just very free, so feel free to continue talking.
Oh,
What were you going to say?
I think getting to work with Brad was fun. To play the bass lines and then play with a percussionist. I think that um, and over time, I guess like any bass player and drummer, start to develop a rapport. Like I felt that happening with Brad.
Yeah,
Being able to kind of lock in and know what he's doing and what he likes to do, and then and just actually just solidifying his sense of time with where I'm feeling it, and could really get into some neat places.
yeah, yeah. Um, I'm curious because well, first of all, that band has no bass player. It's you, and it's fantastic. Um, but I'm curious, what do you like? Blake seems to be like a really great bass player for you. In that situation, it was really nice. What do you hope to have in a bass player when you're playing?
uh, well, that's a good question. I think I think we're all hoping for the same thing, honestly. Which is
Yeah,
why there's really maybe a handful of bassists, that seem to be the ones that everybody wants to play with.
yeah,
They have kind of these elements of being able to establish the harmony and the time, and then be flexible enough to change up and be creative while still doing those other two things. The
yeah, yeah,
primary role and then a secondary role as an accompanist, and being able to quickly assess what's happening and adjust every so subtly to make it work. I can think of a few just models of people I would, the epitome of what I think that is. I'd put Charlie Hayden probably at the top of the list for me.
yeah,
Getting to know him and work with him at Cal Arts, I think that was really foundational to just what I hope to have in a bassist. Somebody who listens so well,
yeah,
but then also has this perfect balance of knowing when to lay it down, when to go with the soloist, how to play counter lines against the harmony,
yeah,
uh, but also how to just keep things very simple. There's kind of uh, there's a bass persona, I think,
yeah,
I tell my students this, you kind of have to be very very confident in yourself and what you can do, and what needs to happen, and
Yeah.
very supportive.
Hmm.
Uh, and also very unyielding. It's like they're kind of this. Um, you may not notice that they're there, but you absolutely need them there. They're kind of the adult in the room, I guess you might say.
I love
Uh,
that.
yeah, because I think there might be a humble arrogance. I don't know if that's a term, like they know
Oh,
that
I know
they're.
exactly what you mean. Yeah. And that's a good way to put it. Did you know that Buddy Rich said you have to have, let's see, you have to have enough ego to get out of the way?
Yeah.
Kind of similar.
Yep. That's for a rhythm section player. That I think that's important.
Yeah, that's nice. Humble arrogance. Yeah.
It might be, a lesser flowery term would be passive aggressive. You're like, I think bass players know that they're always right, or the good ones do, and they know when other people are messing up. It's like, okay, I'm going to fix what they're doing,
Yeah.
and they won't even know that they messed up.
Yeah.
I
I remember one time I was at the old Catalina's and I saw, remember when Kenny Kirkland was playing a lot here? Or maybe you weren't even here yet, actually. It might
I
have been
never saw him
before
at
that.
Catalina. I would have
Yeah.
loved.
I think this might have been before you came. But so Kenny Kirkland, Dave Carpenter on bass, who was a really great, amazing, great player who passed away, and Jeff Tain Watts. So
Wow.
I was sitting at the bar and I was, my first impression was kind of discomfort because I was kind of listening to Jeff and he was so on top of the beat, right? And it was like, and it was kind of uncomfortable for me. His time was just right on the front. And then I started to notice that Kenny was kind of on the back. And so front and back, and then Dave was right in the middle. That's when everything kind of blew apart for me. I was in love with the whole thing because I could actually get the balance of the whole thing.
Yeah, those little micro shadings of the time, I think are interesting. I do feel like the drummer should really pull, like they're really the engine. They have to keep the momentum going, so they want a lot of, it seems like all the good drummers are on the front end of it.
Oh,
But uh I try to play on the back.
you do?
Yeah, I try to pull against that, because I remember Larry Kuntz when I was working with him at Cal Arts. He talked about it being a rubber band, right? Like
Yeah.
there's a tension that is part of the swing element, right?
Yeah.
The the drummer is pulling, or there's some impetus that's pulling, right? And then being in back of the beat, it actually creates this. It's not here; it's actually like this, right? And it's elastic, right?
Yeah.
And that's actually the swing feel. And then whereas the bass has to actually reconcile those two things, right? So the bass is all the way up with the drums, then it's too much pull, right? But if they're back, then the bass has such a presence, it'll actually pull the drummer back,
Yeah.
and so I've noticed that in situations, where if the bass is not, center front, just on the front side, that'll affect the momentum, and then now the bass is actually where I'm trying to be at, and then that's when things start to slow down.
Interesting.
And so I've tried messing around with that, on gigs, where if I feel that happening, I think the tendency is then to try to pull things forward, but that actually you can't do that from the piano side of it. So then I'll try to play even further back, see if I can get to the point where like the other people are like, oh, he's really pulling back. So I need to actually, push harder to
Interesting.
counteract that. And so then things might actually speed up. So you actually have to do the opposite of what you want in order to make it work.
Wow, that's interesting.
But going back to the moment in our band, since I'm playing bass,
Yeah.
and then I can actually control that side of it too, and work with Brad on that sense. Brad doesn't push, uh, Brad doesn't pull as hard as other drummers do. He tends to kind of sit pretty right where it should be. And so
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm kind of messing with that and trying to finesse. Where is the time? How does that work? And try to um, push a little bit more. From the low end.
So, speaking about this, so what does the addition of Jeff do? Because Jeff doesn't really lay down the time, really, right? He kind of plays with it almost ethereally or something, right?
Yeah, Jeff actually probably would do what the piano player would normally do if there was a bass and drums.
Okay, yeah, yeah, I see.
Provide color and texture, and 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 sound. He's Jeff is a
Yeah,
master at getting sounds out of his guitar. He's got
yeah,
all those
yeah.
pedals and can do such cool things. I wish he would do it more, honestly. Like he could do so many things. And he tends to maybe save it, but on his own things. He can go full on Eddie Van Halen if you wanted to. So when maybe we can go Jeff into some of those things.
Probably. Hey, somebody from Seattle misses you. Darren Clendenin.
Oh, Darren. Yeah, hi Darren. Man, thanks for checking in. Darren's amazing. He's an incredible piano player. He's been up there for
Oh,
so many years.
oh, cool.
We did a double bill. It was you, Darren, right? Not at the Royal Room. Mark Taylor was on uh, in my band with some Seattle people, and then they had like a second group that came in.
Speaking of your band, so kind of relating to what we're talking about. I mean, I know everybody does all of these things to whatever degree they do, or their choices, or and that's we like playing with so many different people because of different, just lots of different layers. But your band, um, your regular band, I mean, it's not your regular band, but it's your, I don't know what to call it. It's your one of your main bands that you've had for a long time, right?
Yeah, working trio, I suppose you could say. The Yep, I've been with them longer than any other group, really. And that started in 2005.
Okay, and it is who again?
Yeah, it's Miles Senzaki on drums and JP Maramba on bass.
Right, right.
We were the house rhythm section for this jam session at Second Street Jazz in Little Tokyo.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh,
that's how we met. Do
huh.
you remember that place?
Yeah, I used to go there. I think before that, probably.
Yeah, I mean it was Hiro Kondo, I think the drummer was leading the session, and one day I guess he got tired of doing it and kind of quit on the same day of the jam.
And you happen to be there.
Well, I got a call out of the blue. I was still
Oh.
in grad school at Cal Arts, and I got a call. It was this Japanese guy. He's like, "Hello, my name is Mr. Matsumoto. I run a jam session. I need a piano player. Are you free tonight?"
Oh.
Like, but, it's like, oh, okay, sure. And I came down, and Miles was there, and that's I met him for the
Oh,
first time. I guess he had to kind of make calls to get people in at the last minute. And then I forget he was playing bass. There was another bass player um, who ended up not being able to do it, and then we kind of went through a couple other bass players, and then eventually, I asked JP to do it. I kind of called him out of the blue. I'd played with him on a gig with Kelly Corbin, that saxophone player from
oh,
the video, uh, and he agreed to do it. So we started playing, and I started working in my own tunes. But yeah, we it was about maybe 2 years or so. I think we were there.
oh, geez. Wow. I guess I just didn't go back there after that. Let's see. I was going about 20 a little more than 20 years ago, because my boyfriend was a sax player at that time. It was before I married Gary. So,
Okay.
yeah, it was a long time ago. I mean, that place was there a long time. The owner he was a cool guy. He was such a jazz head.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you knew the backstory for that club. He was Mr. Matsumoto was a like a importer, a clothing importer or something
Oh,
like that. He had a business, and then he found out that he had cancer,
yeah.
right? And so he actually sold off most of the assets of his business, and he opened up this jazz club because he
Oh,
thought, I think they had given him like 6 months to live, or a year or something like that. He's like, well, I'm just going to spend this last year of my life just having a jazz club, and inviting all these great musicians to come in and play. uh I think I heard that Kenny Barron actually played in that place at some point with Tony and Tony Dumas and Glenn, like they were there, and his wife was a piano player as well.
yeah, I remember her. She was quite a bit younger than he, I think.
Yeah, I think so. But I guess the thing is that he didn't die. Right, so
So then
he
it had to be a business.
right, and all of a sudden he's like, well, I was going to blow all my money, and I did on this club, and now I'm alive, and I have to make rent and pay medical bills. So he kind of turned it into a rock and roll club.
Oh, yeah, yeah, right, right.
But I had the jam session on Tuesdays, kept that going. So eventually he did pass away.
Yeah. Um, Mon says hi. He's here.
Oh,
Hi,
hi,
Mon.
Mom. Good to see you.
Um, let's see. Can you play us something? You're sitting at the piano. It would be so nice to
Yeah,
hear you play.
um, yeah, I'll play something. Okay, yeah, so I'll do this one. This was kind of my daily routine warm up. I was playing this Keith Jarrett inspired left hand ostinato bass pattern. That I mean, there's this one piece that he did. It's like an encore that he would play a couple times at concerts. It's like. Right. It's like this thing that just keeps going, and then he plays all this stuff over it. And so, I wanted to make my own ostinato, and so I did that a long time ago, right around the time that my daughter was born.
Mm.
Right, and so I've been working on it ever since then. Right, and she's now 11 years old. I'm still working on it. It's a challenge to kind of keep something going and then try to
Yeah,
keep their hand.
yeah, definitely.
So the tune is called Peekaboo. My daughter, her nickname is Pika, so that's where it comes.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, Gare. The sound of one person clapping.
One person clap. Yeah, I like that.
That was beautiful.
Thanks. Yeah, I have good days and bad days with that. Just earlier today, I was thinking, yeah, this is really happening, and now I'm playing. I'm like, well, not quite. It's trying to get the right hand and the left hand to sync together. And must be some sort of holy grail of solo piano playing. To really get it to really click. But
God, well, when as I was listening, I was thinking, God, that must feel amazing to be able to have the independence to do that. I think that's amazing. Not being a pianist or an instrumentalist like a drummer, who has different appendages happening. I think it's great.
yeah, in some ways, the independent. Well, I used to think it was a myth, like it was more of an illusion that you're not really playing two things at the same time. Like in some ways, it's more of a timing thing. Like you're actually playing things together, and then when you see it all together, then it feels like there's two different tracks
Yeah,
going. At least, when I was playing Bach when I was a student, that seemed to be the case. Like I couldn't keep track of all four voices at the same time. It's just my brain wasn't working that way. So you kind of had to trust that they were happening.
yeah,
And in this case, the left hand, um, I know it so well that it does kind of just do its own thing. I can just kind of let it go and not have to worry about it, right? And then it's almost like I'm just sort of playing right hand ideas, and then the left hand can do it. And so that's sort of what's happening in this particular instance. But there's other times where it's actually even locking in, note by note, and
yeah, yeah,
that's the thing that I'm trying to chase, where it's like it can have this horizontal thing happening, but then also vertically, everything's lining up.
yeah.
And that's the next step. And every now and then it actually happens, and I'm like, oh, okay, there it is, and then it goes away. It's like it's not happening.
That's seems to be what we have to be okay with, because it is, it's the process. I mean, I find that all lessons that lead to that, to having it okay to be a process and in and out, are valuable. I mean, I don't know. That's my point of view, but I don't know if that's, well, there's no way to know if there's 100% truth on anything, but except for our own concepts.
Well, it feels like a unattainable pursuit, I guess. It feels like you're trying to pursue something that um, you can't achieve fully, but you can get further along down that road. Thinking a lot about Keith Jarrett, because the news came out that he can't play anymore, that he had
Uh,
strokes, right, like back in 2018, and he hasn't actually
oh, right.
performed since then. And he finally did an interview, and acknowledged that, and so, but he would say, it was really, well, a couple things, like he felt that his own life and career was one series of failures after another. That's Keith Jarrett saying that. Um, because there was something elusive that he was chasing. Like he said in his mind, like he could hear the music, and it was coming out in this perfect fashion, and then every time he played, it would fall short of that.
Oh,
So,
wow.
um, I think there's a lot of truth to that. We have these ideals of what our music should sound like, what our career should be, your whatever your life achievements are, and I think for most people we don't really quite get there, and like you said, I think you have to learn to be okay with that, but also to not be complacent about it, and that's a hard, that's a very narrow needle to thread.
It really is. It reminds me kind of, I was speaking with a friend of mine about workaholicism. And it's interesting because this person feels like they are a workaholic. And, like in kind of this new defined term, which, makes it problematic. And it is problematic to this person. But, and they suggested that I might be a workaholic. And
I think you
so,
are, Kathy. You work
well,
very hard.
I looked at the description, and the thing is, even though I do some of those things that are in the description, I don't. The full description of each thing does not fit me. I don't have to do it, or I don't feel worthwhile, or I'm not. It's I don't have worry attached to it. And anyway, but what you just said kind of reminds me of that a little bit. I mean, the searching, as Mon said, the beauty in searching. Yeah, Mon is great at that. Um, I mean, that is, if I think that's one of those things that's extremely valuable for humans to understand and within themselves and forgiving, to other people for the same thing. I mean,
Yeah.
it would be a nicer way to go through life if we were a little more like that with each other, understanding that is how life goes. Um, I've been listening to Eckhart Tolle, and a lot of what he says is like that. Um, within his point of view of reality, which is mankind is really screwed up.
Yeah.
But the way out of it is to actually become enlightened. It's not particularly, I mean, we can do things to improve stuff, but and that of course makes a big difference, but it's really the enlightenment part that actually changes everything.
Well, Kathy, I think one of the reasons why I love you so much is that you have a incredibly positive can do outlook on life. I think it's always let's do this, or let's do this. We can do this. Why not try this? And that's certainly something that I struggle with. In my own psychology, whatever's in my head. I tend to have a much more pessimistic outlook on life that rears its ugly head in so many ways. And I've been trying to fight against that. My first reaction is like, well, that will never work. Oh, I can't do this. It's not possible. I suck. I can't. I'll never do the things that I want to do. And that's happened time and time and again, and it still happens every day. And I realize I need to surround myself with people who believe that things are possible, and that um, you know that we can rise above whatever barriers we put in front of ourselves. And so you've been that way for me for sure, and I've had some other people in my life that have been very encouraging and supporting, and I try to be that way for my own students over at CSUN and at PCC, private students, because I think it's doing music especially is a very vulnerable, difficult profession. I think because you don't detach yourself from it, right? You can't. You have to put your entire being into what you're doing, right? And so if that's not going well, then that traumatically affects yourself, right?
Yeah.
And so you kind of have to deal with that all the time. You can't just say, well, I didn't complete that merger today. Oh well, I'll just go home and play with my kids. you know, uh, I do like to go home and play with my kid, but I, at the same time, the thing that we do every day, our job is also something that is deeply connected, with yourself. And so trying to not let that the ups and downs of a pretty tough thing that you're trying to do, really affect you personally, I think is a challenge.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, definitely.
you've done it better than most people, I think. Just the amount of different things that you've done, in your life and the community that you've surrounded yourself with, and how many people that you've inspired. I've seen
Yeah.
it on all the gigs, all the shows we've done. That you have such loyal, faithful friends, and I think they look to you for inspiration. I really admire that.
Thank you, Gary. Well, it wasn't always like that in my life. I had some very deep, dark days when I was younger. And then it seemed like I got my lessons very clearly to, life lessons really clearly to me. And I learned how to get out of situations after a few head smacks on the wall, it was like, oh, that hurts. And then it was like, oh, okay, well, I don't want it to hurt, so how am I going to get out of it? So I got a lot of those real deep lessons along the way. And not that some of them took a long time, to get to soak in and to crack open, the whatever it was. But there are things like basic things like I don't like to feel bad. So that's very basic, and nobody really loves to feel bad probably, but it's just so I don't like to feel bad. So what am I going to do to change that, So that's just there are several basic things that I operate on, and that's just one of them.
That's a great.
And yeah, it makes me act in certain ways, and also the things that I find valuable, no matter how small or big, because there's kind of a sliding scale, right, of what you consider valuable and what excites you. Those things, when I feel that excitement over something I think is valuable, that actually spurs me on, you know. So, and then that kind of falls into the area of as an artist, especially right now, and we could speak about this a little bit, but and what is the purpose of doing this, right? Especially for artists, because so many artists make their living from producing their art. Some people don't teach even. Teaching. Many of us fell into that because it was a good way to make money, and but also we liked it too. But it also supported our life. So there's so many artists, both working, at something to create income, and also not working at something to create income, who are we're creating these pieces of art because we have to, or whatever reason we talk about. And then why? Where is it going? Is it, I mean, there's so many different answers, right?
Yep. Yeah, why do it? Why do anything really?
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, I think people choose to do this because they're compelled to do it.
Yeah.
Like there's some say, that it chooses you. You don't choose it.
Yeah.
Uh, for some it feels like a curse. You're like, well, what, why couldn't I just turn this off and go become an accountant or something like that? Life would be so much easier. And yet, sometimes you can't help it. You're like, well, all I do is think about music all day, or I watch a show and I think, oh,
That's nice music.
uh, uh, but in I remember telling Miles, my drummer, that sometimes it feels very just selfish, self-indulgent. It's like, well, it's my art and my career, and I want people to look at me and buy my records, and I want to have more hits on social media, and so maybe I should just put all that aside, and just you know do something else, that helps other people. And Miles said, well, it could actually be, let's say that you have a talent and a gift for doing something, that other people would enjoy and benefit from and be inspired by, and then you don't put it out there. Maybe that's actually being selfish. Like you're hoarding your own ability, right? And you're not actually sharing it with people. He just said that to me not that long ago. And my brain did a flip flop. A cartwheel. I was like, what? It was like some sort of jujitsu move that he did on me. Like, so I've actually been more selfish by not
Sharing.
yeah, by not sharing, by not playing, not making records, not composing more, and realizing that maybe the music does choose you. Maybe you have been gifted with a certain amount of talent, um, and then then you need to do something with it. You can't hide it under a rock. That's a waste of whatever you've been given.
Yeah. Yeah, this touches on so many things, because I mean, I've seen this over and over, and I'm sure you have too. By playing, I've seen people get touched, and I've experienced it. You get the listener gets touched in a particular way, and like I remember just coming to mind, Sheila Jordan was here last year, and we had her perform at Alan Goldman's house. And the last song she sang, well, first of all, one thing that I perceived was, and she never said this exactly, but it was just what I picked up. And I think other people picked it up too. She was like, she knew she was one of the last people alive who had lived through, you know, the New York loft scene with Charlie Parker and all those people. And it was her job to bring that experience to people. And the last song she sang, it was, I think she sings this song last for a reason, because she had trouble with drinking, when she was younger, that she got out of some kind of settling in yourself, over a dark uh, a dark fighter, a dark attacker. And I looked around the room, every person was crying.
Wow.
And so now it's not like she went up to each person and found out what their life was, or she showed vulnerably her experience with that, and everybody had some kind of relating point that they felt. And so that's the power of it is incredible, and so I think I I agree with Miles. You know, I mean, it's in a funny way. Ted Green used to struggle with that. Oh, so much, man. Ted Green. Anybody who knew Ted knew that because he barely played out because he felt like he wasn't good enough to live up to people's expectations of him. And I used to tell him, Ted, you have to go out and share this gift with people. Oh no, he didn't really. And he was, I mean, he really moved people, you know.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think you know when you're chasing that elusive goal of whatever artistic perfection, then you can see yourself in that light as having fallen short of that goal, right? And then I think the fallacy is that then everybody else sees you as falling short of that goal too, but they don't actually see that. They see you as further along the path towards trying to get there, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And that's where the inspiration occurs.
Boy, that's an important point.
And it's hard to see that. I struggle with that. I don't see other people looking at myself and saying, oh well, yeah, he's there, he is. I see myself and I see that goal and I say, well, I'm not there, right? And how do you flip that? How can and ultimately that's a very self-centered mentality, right? Because you're not actually seeing your role in the larger picture of whatever community you're in. And I
Yeah.
think being a teacher at CSUN for such a long time, I think it's allowed me to have perspective on that, because I've seen my role, in a different light, that I'm here to help people, and I know that they look to me for inspiration, and then that in turn also helps me to be motivated to continue to work hard to get better, knowing that, right? That I actually need to keep going, so that I can be an effective teacher and be somebody that they look up to. Um, it's like an immediate type of community, where you can actually say, okay, I've got a mission and a purpose. If you're just a performer without that, then you have to find other ways to get that, and it could be from your peers, from the people that you play with. You might have a group of people who are all really pushing and trying to help each other and achieve great things. It could be your fan base, if you actually have a following, a well-known, yeah, you're well known, and then you get that feedback from those people, and that can also keep you going. So, but you do have to find it someplace, and usually it comes from outside yourself, which just means you need people. You need others to help you have that perspective.
Yeah. Um, I think would like to play something, another thing, looking at, would it be on YouTube, do you think? Or
What are you looking for?
I'm looking for you
Oh,
playing. Let's
uh,
see.
there's
Here's another one of that, but oh, there's several of them. Or here's a Cal Arts thing with Larry and Derek.
no, maybe not that. Let's see.
I mean, that quartet is great, but you may want to move on because, you know,
Yeah, honestly, I don't have too many. You might actually go if you wanted to hear something current.
yeah.
Uh, it's not a live performance, but it's a weird little video of one of my preludes.
Okay.
So I think if you go to GF3, you search for that GF3 and then Prelude 3.
Did you say be like boy?
No, sorry, GF3, the number 3, and then Prelude 3, THREE.
Maybe here? Whoops.
Brush your.
Is this here?
No. Let's see. Take out my name and just go to. That's it. Or let's see. There should actually be a weird video that kind of a quirky, strange video that Keo Griffith put together, kind of an art video.
No.
Coming up. Maybe I can send you the link. Sorry, fans. Let me.
I saw that Gene Coy got on a while back. Gene, we played you and talked about you.
Yeah, Gene.
Yeah, Gene.
That was so great. Okay, I'm sending the link here.
Okay, are you sending it through Zoom or?
I'll send it on. There's the. Oh, I don't know if that'll work. Let me see.
Or through email or whatever. Just let me know how you're sending it. Or on Facebook, whatever.
Yeah, so I on the chat in Zoom.
Okay. Let's see.
That last one, the YouTube link, that's one. That.
Excuse me. I have, yeah, I'm okay. I have a chronic cough that's related to phlegm.
That's the worst.
It is, believe me. I've had it for years and years and years. Okay. And cool. You'll put it together, huh? Whose door is that?
I do not know. I think oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Keo did not do this one. Keo designed the artwork. This was actually Travis Born.
Yeah.
The great visuals for Josh Nelson's projects.
Yeah, he's wonderful.
He had he created this little narrative of going to the library. So going to the Central Library. I thought it was cool because my wife is a librarian. So.
Oh, oh, that's cool. Okay. All right, here we go. Cool. Wow. So, and that was a. Why did you write that?
Why did I write that piece?
Yeah.
Um, it's a part of a series of preludes. I've written these. I'm calling them preludes because they're short, kind of idea pieces, right? Really, one type of concept or theme. Um, and kind of in the middle of a project I've written, or I've published 6 of them, and that's the third one. It's part of an EP, and the plan is to get 6 more down,
Huh.
and then put out an album, but kind of slow in developing. But they're with the trio, and it kind of represented sort of a shift in our identity as a band. I think some of it is because Miles and JP don't really play jazz anymore. They're doing a lot of other amazing projects. JP's playing all sorts of things, mostly on electric bass. He's in a metal band that tours. Miles has got his own recording studio, and he plays in a number of different groups, and he's actually got his own solo project going where he basically plays every instrument and he sings, and then he makes his own music videos using computer animation.
Huh.
It's really unbelievable what he's doing. So this is a number of years ago now, but I remember we actually had drinks or dinner or something like that, and I told him, well, I'd like to actually make a recording, because we'd actually never made an actual album together, despite how long we've been together. I was like, so let's do this, but at the same time, I don't want you guys just to be my sidemen, of whatever I do. So I want it to be more of a kind of a group band concept, right?
Yeah.
So I would still write the pieces, but then I would bring them in, and we also had our friend Jens Kuras, Jens,
Yeah. Sure.
who also now has his own singer-songwriter career where he's solo singing and playing piano at the same time. And I guess he spends half of the year in Europe playing all these venues and stuff. So we brought him in to produce the album, and so we would basically deconstruct everything that I've written and turn them into this what you hear with a lot of other different types of elements.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's been fun. But the other preludes, that's the name of the project. It's my Preludes project.
Nice. Very cool. Um, let's see. I also wanted to talk a little bit about your reviewing, jazz reviewing for Downbeat, and I also wanted to talk about you playing with it was Wayne Shorter, right? No, it was Alphonse. I'm sorry.
Alphonso Johnson, yeah. So
Yeah, sorry.
I've
My brain was
vicariously. I have a second degree of separation from.
Yeah, right. From Wayne Shorter. Actually, let's talk about that. So, Alphonse Johnson.
Yeah, one of the more remarkable things that happened, and this is already, a number of years ago when I first met him, but
I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you because some people listening might not know who Alphonse Johnson is. So, could you just give a slight amount of background?
Of course, yeah. He's well known to bass players, I think. Maybe not to other people, but he, in the band Weather Report, I think they started out with Miroslav Vidas, right, on bass, and then that was more almost like a kind of a free jazz kind of band at that point, right? And then after Miroslav, they got super funky, and they had this rhythm section of Chester Thompson on drums and Alphonso Johnson on bass, right? And Tail Spinning and Black Market were the two albums, that they did. And then after that, that's when Jaco Pastorius came on the scene, and Alfonso decided to get out, and so did Chester eventually. So Alfonso ended up touring with Carlos Santana after that, and being his bass player for a while. And then he even played with the Grateful Dead for a minute.
Oh, wow.
He did this incredible fusion band with George Duke and Billy Cobham. You can actually find that.
Oh.
Like they actually did a tour, and then they made an album of the tour, but that was his first thing he did after leaving Weather Report.
Oh.
And he has some solo albums of his own. I think at one point, because of the Weather Report thing, his stock was super high, right? So he's got some really awesome 70s albums out there. But he's been around, and he's been teaching at USC. He was really good friends with Patrice Rushen and Ndugu Chancellor, right? And so the three of them were kind of the fusion group, that taught over at USC before Ndugu passed away. And then Alfonso decided to go back and get a college degree, which he never got because he was, touring and playing from when he was a teenager. So he decided to go to Cal State Northridge and get a music degree. And if you're in the music ed program at Cal State Northridge, one of the things they make those students do is take beginning jazz improv.
And you were the teacher.
And I was the improv
teacher. Wow, that must have kind of blown your mind at first. Like,
yeah,
yay!
I remember Gary Pratt, the director, well, the person who hired me at CSUN, he sent me an email saying, so Alphonso Johnson is signed up for your improv class. And he goes, yes, I do mean the Alphonso Johnson. And I started to freak out a little bit. And then I got an email from Alphonso saying, hello, Professor Fukushima. My name is Alphonso Johnson. I'm going to be in your improv class, and I just want to know what materials and what book I need to buy. And, my head is just like, what? And I told him, I emailed him back and said, Mr. Johnson, I'm so glad you're in the class, but you certainly don't have to come. I'll just give you an A. But then he showed up on the first day of class, and he showed up for every class. And, he did all the little improv exercises, scales and modes and blues. He brought his upright bass so he could practice on upright. And he was a big inspiration to all the other students. He joined the orchestra.
Oh, wow.
And I think he still plays with the San Fernando Symphony. And then, I had this other class. It's an intro to jazz course, right? And I was teaching that for the first time. And so I walk into class, and then I look in the front row, and Alphonso Johnson sitting in the front row of my intro to jazz course. So now I'm teaching jazz history to someone who's a part of jazz history. Like, so embarrassing. How does this happen?
It must have been an interesting mind trip. Like, I can imagine occasionally it would come into your perspective, like Alphonso Johnson, and then out, then you were teaching, and then Alphonso Johnson.
Yeah, I mean, it was really surreal to have him there, but that class was really fun because then, when it came time to talk about fusion, I could say, well, we have this gentleman here who's actually a part of that scene. And so I invited him to come up, and I actually interviewed him in front of the class, and
cool.
played videos of him with Weather Report and with Santana, and it was really pretty amazing.
Yeah.
But anyway, he decided while he was at CSUN that he wanted to put together a teacher and student band. Right. So, he had we did a concert, a tribute to Joe Zawinul and Wayne Shorter, and so we did a lot of weather report songs, and we had some students, and we also had Rob Lockhart, play saxophone, and I played piano. And it was really fun. And so, we just kept playing. And at one point, I remember I got a call from him. It was after the semester was over, a few days before Christmas. And he's like, so, Gary, I'm going to be recording an album, and, I'd like you to play on it if you want. And I was like, yeah, of course, I'll do that. Right. And so he worked on this album, over the next 5 years, just doing a few tracks here and there, but ended up doing a lot of playing with him. And
So wait, so you have an album with him?
yeah, it's called Reflections. It's Alfonso's album.
Yeah,
right? So it just came out last year, I think. But he's got a lot of really cool guest artists and different people playing on it and singing, so it's fun.
Yeah. Okay. I don't think I never heard it. Okay. Yes. And then and then
Well, and then we started to try to put some groups together, and he ended up reuniting with Chester Thompson, who of course, after playing with Weather Report, he went on to play with Genesis for so many years, right? He was Genesis drummer, and then worked with Phil Collins' solo career after that. He lives in Nashville now. But he put this band together with Chester and this guy named Federico Ramos. Do you know Federico?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Federico Ramos, yeah.
And yeah, Federico's great friends with Ron and Odmaro, right? Those three were arts together at the same time, I think.
Yeah, and played with my old brother-in-law, Joey Heredia.
Oh wow, okay.
Mm-hmm. They had a band.
And Federico, he did all the guitar work for Coco, that Walt Disney movie.
Oh yeah, right. I remember that. That was a few years back, and yeah.
And they even did motion capture on his hand, right? So it's like when you see that little boy playing guitar and you see this beautiful hand and fretting and all that, that's actually Federico's hand.
Yeah.
So anyway, he Federico had a lot of, he's basically worshipped down in Uruguay, that's where he's from, in South America. So he got us a few gigs down in South America, and so we went down there, and that was incredible. And then I was, we were in Buenos Aires, and I was going shopping with Chester Thompson. We had an off day, and we took the train out there, and we were like trying on leather jackets and shoes and stuff. And I was like, I can't believe I'm going shopping with one of the greatest drummers. That was really fun.
Did it have an effect on your shopping?
Well, yeah. He's an amazingly cool, dapper black man, right? And so instantly it's like, he'll tell you if you look good or if you look terrible. And so we tried a bunch of stuff, and it's like, yeah, he's like, that the bigger size fits you better, but the smaller size looks cooler, so you should go with the smaller size. Now I can't even fit into the jacket, so I should have got the bigger size. Anyway. But so that happened, right? And then I think it was the 2 summers later, I guess, he had an opportunity to work with this amazing drummer from Japan. Her name's Senri Kawaguchi. She's like 23 years old now.
Oh yeah.
Just a really wonderkind on the drums. She's utterly fantastic. But he hadn't met her. He just saw videos and knew some people who played with her, and just kind of called her out of the blue and asked her if she wanted to tour with him, and she said she would. And so he was booking this tour in Europe, and it seemed like it was coming together, and then all of a sudden it just completely fell apart, right? And so and this is like a few months before we were supposed to go out there. So Senri's agent said, well, why don't I see if I can scrounge up some gigs in Japan, and then you guys can come to Japan. And we were like, okay. and he did. They put together, 11 dates all over Japan. And so we went out there and played, and that was also really, really fun. And really only the second time I'd ever been to Japan. And the first time, I was in high school. So it was a real treat to do that.
Yeah.
But Alfonso
You went to South America, didn't you?
Yeah, to Uruguay with Federico. The trip before that. So
the trip before that.
yeah,
Okay.
Uruguay and Argentina.
Yeah.
Yeah, so never would have dreamed I would have an opportunity to not only go to those places but to play with bona fide legends, people
So,
that are well known.
what did it feel? Absolutely divine, or was it just like basically, a regular gig where it ebbed and flowed, or?
They all felt pretty significant, especially in South America. There are all these really big concert halls. Well, one was a smaller club, but the club was just completely packed. I mean, it was just the madhouse scene in there.
Oh wow.
But we played at the Gran Teatro Polis, is that what it's called, in Montevideo, Uruguay? Which is like this beautiful old theater. Just classic, Italian aria opera.
Right, right.
And yeah, that was great experience, and the people were so nice, and they had, you get a whole crew of people, 2 or 3 people on each instrument helping you get your sound and set up and everything. So those are cool. In Japan, it was we were actually playing small clubs. I think that's all they could kind of scrounge together at the last minute,
Yeah,
But
yeah.
that was fun too, to play in these little jazz clubs. And I mean, because you've been out there,
Yeah,
how enthusiastic and appreciative audiences are in Japan.
yeah.
And that was also really fun. And the food in Japan is just
Oh,
amazing.
good. I know.
Right.
I could eat Japanese food all the time. Real Japanese food.
Yeah, it doesn't matter where you go. I mean, you just eat anything. It's just so well presented and
I know.
balanced.
It's good food.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of that, I was curious. I did a Jazz Musicians United Against Racism concert for Leroy Downs the other
Right.
night at the World Stage, and I was when I it crossed my mind. I was curious if you have felt. I mean, you've only been to Japan twice, but still, your heritage is Japanese, and so I'm just curious. Have you felt any racism over the years, or racism is a real heavy word, but any kind of something along those lines? Have you felt that in the music, reflected in your music career? You're working with people, or
Um, I can recall, there was one instance, wasn't really related to people I was playing with, but being at a party, and this is back before I moved to LA, and I was talking to this woman, and she's like, "Well, you're Japanese and you're a jazz musician. Isn't that odd?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Well, I was like, "I don't know. What are you saying?" He's like, "No, you don't get. No, I don't mean it." And then I basically said, "I'm coming over here," and I just walked off. There. I think, um, there's not been a overt thing. I racism comes in a lot of different forms. I think, and some of it is can be beneath the surface, right? So sometimes you don't really know. I mean, it's like, did I not get hired, because they didn't think that I would be able to do it because I'm Asian, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I know, like, even over at CSUN, and there's no way to prove this, but at the time when I was applying for the full-time job, I was pretty much the only minority candidate, person of color, on staff at CSUN, and I think there's one other person, in the ethnomusicology department, and I didn't actually make it onto the short list for getting the full-time job, even though I was the interim director of the program there. And it makes you think, well, there was like 3 white people on the search committee that brought in 3 other white people to do the job that a person of color is currently doing,
Yeah.
and that doesn't make me feel good to think that, but then at the same time, I could see how that could be a problem, but entirely legal, under the grounds, like, you're not supposed to consider
Yeah.
race right now, although there is a proposition on the ballot that
I saw that. Yeah.
would reinstate that,
Yeah.
specifically for these cases, like
Yeah.
in the jazz department, you would want more diversity. So, I was talking to, I don't know if you saw the article that I put in Downbeat, about Asian Americans specifically, and the issues of them being Asian American in the context of jazz, and that was kind of it was right around the time when you heard the terms Kung flu and Wuhan flu
Yeah.
and China virus,
Yeah.
being perpetuated, and you did see an uptick in anti-Asian sentiment
Yeah.
directed at Asian Americans who had nothing to do with the flu, right? It's not even a flu, but and the 4 people that I interviewed, one was Jen Shu, great vocalist, out of New York, and then there was a saxophonist from Chicago. His name I'm forgetting right now. And there was John Hatamiya, a great trombonist, who was in the Monk Institute. And then John Jang, who was actually the founder of Asian American Improv in San Francisco. And all of them really couldn't point to, acts of racism, related to the pandemic. Although John Jang said that he was kind of rudely yelled at by a woman because he was standing in the wrong place at Target or whatever. But no one knows if that was.
Yeah.
So, but all of them had very interesting takes on subtle things that had happened, some overt things, but John Jang was playing at like a blues club for a while in San Francisco. This didn't get into the article, but he felt like he couldn't hang because he wasn't black, which so he it wasn't specifically because he was Asian.
Yeah.
And he realized he kind of needed to find his own identity in the music as well, as much as he admired black performers. All of his champions are African American musicians, who were really prominent during the civil rights movement. So
Yeah.
John Hatamiya mentioned that when he was in New York, like they were playing in some funk band, and the saxophone player, turned to him admiringly and said, "Man, you're Japanese. You're not supposed to be playing like that. You know,
which
and he
was
meant it,
supposed to be a compliment, right?
yeah, he meant it in a good way, but at
Right.
the same time, it's like, well, what are you saying? Is it because I'm Japanese that I'm not supposed to be playing? That's exactly what he's saying. Like, but I can play blues, just like anybody else. But then John mentioned that he felt like he got hired a lot because he's good at playing odd time signatures and playing really difficult music, and can handle it, and so part of him thinks, well, is it because of the fact that I'm Asian that they think that I would be better suited for this kind of music? It's like, well, why don't they hire me to, play Horace Silver tributes or anything like that, or Blakey's. Like, I like to do that too, but he
Yeah.
finds himself in all these very wonky, settings. So, I think
It's
for
interesting, isn't it? It's really wild.
yeah,
I when I think about over the years, if I mean, I have probably had some. I, I was supposed to write this whole article for women suffering in the business. Actually, continuing article, like interviewing people and stuff. And Gary, I just couldn't get behind it because I probably have been, you know, not allowed certain things or treated a certain way because I'm a woman, but I've never felt like it got in my way of, and I know a lot of women like that. And it's so I just couldn't get behind that. I've had a little bit of because I'm white and in the jazz, you know, in the jazz realm, like kind of, well, you couldn't possibly be good, because you're not black, and being Jewish in the music has nothing really, nothing ever like that. But it's that's why I mean, when I think of prejudice, although there are certain things that need to be changed, um, I tend to want to go forward in the idea of, humankind needs to be free and humankind needs to come together. And I think there's a lot less attention on that than there should be.
I being Asian, I think one of the things that comes up a lot is the fact that we're held up as sort of what the term is model minority,
Oh, really?
which means
Model? Is that what you said?
model minority. Yeah, we're the ones that model the best behavior of all the minorities. Basically, is what they're saying. And so we've actually been used as a weapon against other forms of racism. Saying, well, why don't you guys do what the Asians do? Why don't you become more successful like them? Why don't you work
Uh-huh.
hard? Why don't you have the values, that they have, because they seem to be doing better than blacks or Latinos.
Huh.
And the what's missing from that is that, the way that Asians came to America, especially as of late, is due to the fact that they would only let uh, people from Asia immigrate, if they could prove that they would have a value to this country, right? So they're already educated, already had money, already at a different status. African Americans, as you know, didn't even choose to come here, right? They were incarcerated, enslaved, and then when they were freed, they had nothing, right? And for many Latino Americans, they're escaping really dire situations, from their home countries, so the starting point is different
Yeah.
for Asians, and I think they're ignoring the systemic racism that happened to even allow Asians to be in this country. So we do have the numbers will show that we tend to do better as just a group. Like, we tend to be overachievers and perfectionists, but you could argue, well, that was built in, to the first generation of Asians that actually came over here. I guess my point is just that the reason why we need to address issues of equality, and do things like affirmative action, is, I mean, the reason why you would want to do that is if you believe that there is systemic racist policies, that prevent people of color from moving forward.
Yeah.
And I think I personally believe that it's out there. I feel like I've actually been victimized by it myself. I don't use that as an excuse, to try to keep moving forward. But it's above my pay grade to find out the solutions, to help, especially in terms of African Americans and Latinos, but there is tremendous inequity that's out there. I mean, you see it in jazz education, right? We have at CSUN, we have one person who's Black, among 60 students, 60 jazz majors. And last year we had 3. Sorry, we have 2 now. And last year we had 3. And that's a horrible percentage for a music that actually came out of the African American community. And why is that? The main reason is just that you don't actually have opportunities to teach jazz to students of low to lower income, right? In order to even become good enough to to audition or to get into a place like CSUN, you already have to be quite proficient at playing jazz, and how to do that. They take private lessons early on. They go to jazz camps. They get good equipment. They live in an area that might have a really good jazz band, in their high school. Go to festivals, go see shows, right? All of that is really kind of an elite model for how you even become a jazz musician, right? Even Joshua Redman, he talked about that when I was asking him about, what was going on in the country, for the interview I did. And he said, yeah, he himself, he's half Black, but he's also half Jewish, right? His mom grew up with his mom, and he says that he felt like he had a certain amount of jazz privilege, which enabled him to be able to become a jazz musician.
Because because they had the money to support it, or why?
It was money, and I think the fact that he could identify with or being in a community that allowed him to study jazz in San Francisco, as opposed to growing up in Harlem or whatever.
Yeah. So do you think this really falls on financial? I mean, even white people or Asian people who might not be who might be in a poorer area and community, they would be going through the same things, right?
Of course, yeah. If you live in a poor area, you are not afforded the same advantages. But if you look at who actually lives in areas that have more economic advantages, the majority of families that live in there are white, and actually Asian, for that matter.
Yeah.
And it's no surprise that we actually have quite a number of Asian jazz majors now in our department.
Hmm.
Right. So you see the system also working in that favor,
Yeah.
But white, that's inbred really early on. And I think as a jazz educator, I think it's important to recognize that we've got a problem not being able to do enough outreach, to provide opportunities for lower income people of all races,
Yeah.
uh, to give them a chance to maybe discover that they might actually become a great musician, a great artist. But you don't see that. I think, especially in African American communities, you don't see as many of them want to become jazz musicians.
Yeah. I also think, Gary, too, it's not that I disagree with you, but I think also the outlook on art in general, I mean, I don't think there's enough respect and understanding of what art can do for people. To take it seriously. I've seen, on both good sides and bad sides, people of all different races talking about supporting their art, or all the good stuff. In fact, I just watched something on Gail Boyd is an artist manager in New York, and she handles some big people. And on her site, it's called something like alternative alternative venues, something like that, on Facebook. And she does every day at 5. She has an interview, and I've seen some amazing artists, serious artists, talking about what they do and their perspectives. But basically, I wanted to say too that I mean, even looking at, let's say, my grandchildren, my grandchildren who are like 4 and 8, okay, 2 girls, and when I do some jazz stuff, they look at me like I'm an alien from another planet. But they can dance and sing any of like the pop music, which is, to me, it's a little kind of not that appealing, because they're doing these moves and singing about sex stuff, and they're like 4 and 8, and actually the other day I inspired this little fun little game, which was fun. We were over there, we were outside, and my husband and I started improvising with the older girl, and she started improvising back with me, just very spontaneously. And then Gary even came in, who's, not a not a performer artist, and we like must have done it for an hour, and
Wow.
she loved it. And so, but I think that is something too, that people don't value art as much as they should. And no matter whether it's whatever economic background it is, or racial background, I think there's that too. There's a lack of understanding how powerful art is and how it should be revered.
I think current state of education makes it harder too. There's such emphasis on the STEM, right? Uh,
Yeah.
Sciences, technology, and all that, and a real push to try to get America and our current students, to be competitive, with China, uh, with Europe, where they seems like they're cranking out students that have better education and higher IQs, and then they come and take all the tech jobs, in the United States. So, um, it's a monumental task, to start, just from the trying to bring up the floor of education in general in the United States. Um, and so, unfortunately, what happens is that the arts gets short shrift, and it always has. It's viewed as a lower tier, as far as essentials, for education. Um, And you could make the argument, and I think rightly so, that you, it should be included with all the STEM um, education, because studies have shown that getting um, stimulating yourself artistically, will actually help your other cognitive functions, right?
Right.
And if you leave that out entirely, you're actually not helping.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're not
Yeah.
helping the development of the brain. So I completely agree with you that there can be more done. Obviously, if the federal government were to get behind that, I think you would see more support, for something like the Beyond the Bell program for LA Unified School District. You could they could double their funding, right, and still wouldn't be enough to provide the type of mission that they'd want, to provide extra arts education for students. And it's entirely possible. It's really just a matter of priority, really.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I hope that going forward, if we can get some people on who actually care about this, you'll see that see a commitment to the arts.
Yeah.
Not
Before
just
we
from
go, I
sorry, uh, but I mean also like currently, like there should be funding in the next stimulus bill to support all of the clubs that are in the right now not able to be open, right? Because they will all go away if this continues on for another year. And that will for our own direct livelihood, that will completely devastate the artistic jazz community, right?
yeah.
We will have
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
And so we do need help, and we need these things to be a priority. We need people at the highest levels to be advocates for it. That's right now that hasn't happened for a long time. I hope
Yeah.
it will.
Yeah. Before we leave, I just want to touch on your writing for Downbeat as well. You got that gig, what, 2 years ago or something?
Yeah. Yep. Finishing up the second year now of doing it. It's been great. I really enjoyed doing it. I actually got it started writing for them, through because I work for LA Weekly, right,
Yeah.
for many
Yeah.
years doing picks. And I really owe Brick Wall a debt of gratitude for even getting me into writing for them in the first place. Like I kind of came on right as he was leaving the LA Weekly, and he'd been really supportive of our LA Jazz Collective organization, in the past, and so we got to know each other. And I remember being at Blue Whale.
Gosh, sorry. Now, and yeah, you just reminded me the LA Jazz Collective too. I mean, that was a whole other thing that you
Yeah.
created. Now, a group of like-minded jazz musicians who came together and contributed and shared, and that was an amazing group.
Yeah, it was a good experiment, I guess, if you will, to at the time when there wasn't a whole lot of original music being made in the city of LA, and not a real strong artistic community surrounding, the idea that you could write your own music. And so I think it was at the time, it was a really needed thing,
Yeah.
but maybe we'll need it again. We might have to rebuild our community. So,
Yes.
but
And so it came out, so the writing gig came out of that, basically? Is that what you're
yeah,
saying?
I remember writing a bunch of emails to support, our LA Jazz Collective events,
Oh,
and Rick would always like comment and say, hey, that one's good, and I remember Rocco was lamenting the fact that Brick was leaving LA Weekly and there weren't going to be somebody who knew about music to do picks anymore. And I just kind of jokingly put my hand up and was like, I'll do it. And Rocco's like, no, you really should do it. Great, actually. And so I ended up emailing Brick and saying, well, what do you think? And he was like, well, you're pretty good, but keep writing, kid. You'll get there. That's kind of what he. And then the next week I actually sent another email out, some real snarky email about like this mock conversation that happens at a jam session. I have it someplace. I'll have to post it
Oh
again.
yeah, that would be interesting.
So Rick read that and he liked it so much he actually forwarded it to the editor at LA Weekly, the music editor, and said, maybe give this guy a shot. So they contacted me, and I got the. So writing for LA Weekly was great. I learned how to write, and got to know a lot of musicians that way too. And then when the LA Weekly got sold, a few years ago, the new owners came in and fired all of the editors. Right. They called it the Red Wedding because everyone thought it was.
They call it what?
The Red Wedding, from Game of Thrones.
Oh.
Everybody got killed, right?
Right.
Wedding, which is supposed to be a celebration. Everyone was so celebrating these new owners coming in, injecting new revenue, and we all got fired. Well, they got fired, and then I quit, in solidarity with the editor. Which was actually a good thing because then that music editor ended up going to Downbeat and writing a piece about jazz in LA for Downbeat.
Oh.
And then while he was there, then he said, "Hey, there's another guy that used to write about jazz here in LA that you should take a look at." And so then they contacted me.
Oh, cool. Yeah, and I see you sending tweets out. Is that how people can go read your articles?
You can do that, or you can actually go to my authors page at Downbeat.
Oh, cool.
I can post it on the. Should I do it on Facebook? I don't know.
Yeah, you can do it on. Either one. I can transfer.
Yeah, I'll do it on here because I.
Yeah.
You can actually see everything I've done. At least the stuff that they put up online. There's a few things that you need to read in the magazine. But I've done, started out by doing reviews, and then I did a feature or two. And then most recently, which has been really exciting, they've given me the task of doing the blindfold tests.
Right? Oh, how fun!
The hallowed back page. Tests, Leonard Feather, Ted Pankin did it for so many years.
How fun, man!
So they needed somebody who was Zoom capable, who could actually conduct the blindfold test over Zoom, and so I guess they came to me, and so far I've done 5 of them, I think now. So it started out with Warren Wolf, great vibraphonist, drummer, pianist, and then Jeremy Pelt, the great trumpet player, and then Noah. I'm forgetting his last name. Sorry, Noah, if you're watching. He's a Boston area saxophonist, Liebman protege. He's not that well known on the West Coast, actually. And then actually, I did after that. I was Karen Allison, and that was
really cool.
Yeah,
that must have been fun.
Yeah, and I guess was she the last one? Oh no, and then Ryan Kerbley, that was a great trombone player. And then the one after that will be Red Zabasi, a great guitar player. All right, so, but it's been fun to play music and listen to what they have to say. The blindfold tests are designed to
in less than 10 seconds with this revolutionary toothbrush.
I'm looking while you're speaking. I'm looking for something to play about you.
Okay.
Sorry.
No problem.
Go ahead.
But it's kind of fun to see if you can stump them. But even if you don't, and actually sometimes it's better if you don't, because then they actually can come at the music from an informed perspective. You know, like you
Hmm.
might know this person or have worked with them or have a story of some sort. So poor Karin, that was I gave her a bunch of things that she didn't know, and so she was like feeling not so hot about her her batting average. She's like, I'm 1 for 9 at this point, she said. But I did, play her a few things. Like at the very last track was Jay Clayton and Fred Hirsch, and I played
She
that,
knew
and she got it right away, and just
that.
transported her to this other place, and had so many beautiful things to say about Jay.
Yeah.
But
Well,
yeah, it's
I want to. I'm going to thank you because it's been a little over 2 hours already. And Gary Fukushima, I always tell Gary he's one of my favorite pianists. And I always mean that. It's totally true because when I hear you play, I'm just like, oh, wow. And um, so everybody should go look him up and enjoy his playing. And you can see why I love Gary because he's just a beautiful human being. And I appreciate you, Gary, always.
likewise, Kathy. Thank you so much for having me on this. It's great to just talk about all these things that we were discussing. It's great to see you. Hopefully, we'll do this in person at some point. But I think
I
you're
hope
doing
so.
great service for people, to just stay connected and stay tuned in,
Yeah.
and
Thank you.
keep your eye on the future, on the horizon, because there's
Yeah.
better days ahead. I know that.
Yeah. I want to tell people that tomorrow I'm having a Cuban violinist, Diron Santa Maria, who I met when I booked the Bar Fedora downtown. I had booked Oscar Hernandez, the great Latin jazz pianist and band leader, and he brought her, and she was electric. I mean, she's amazing. So she's going to be on tomorrow. And then since now I'm down to 3 days a week, November 2nd, which is Monday, a composer named Brian McNellis, who's a friend of Catherine Bostick, who is not only a person I'm co-producing, but she's an amazing film scorer and singer and composer and pianist. She's just a full package. And then, actually, Gary, I don't know if you know this guy, but you'd be interested in checking him out. On Tuesday, yes, November 3rd, I thought people need a little break, in the middle of all.
Well,
Uh,
everybody's voted already, so it doesn't matter.
um, a French pianist, right along our thinking, Franck Amsalem.
Oh, okay, I don't know him.
Yeah,
Sounds
you would really like him, and maybe who knows, you might even want to write about him. But I think he's in his late 30s, early 40s, something like that, and he's super. He's like a blue whale guy. He's really incredible. And then, speaking of great pianists, but from a little from the older day, but he's not that old. Bill Mays.
Oh man, amazing.
He's amazing. And
Wow.
then I just have to share. I'm going to have Bob Moses on.
What? Oh yeah, I saw that. I was like, is that the Bob Moses?
Yes.
Incredible.
I'm so totally stoked about that. Bob Moses was when I was at Berkeley when I was,
Yeah.
20 or 19. Weather Report and ECM, everybody was happening and Bob Moses was right in that whole thing and so
Yeah.
he'd been a hero of mine forever. And I've
Incredible.
known him on and off over the years, so I called him up and we had like a half-hour talk. He's really an interesting guy. He has a really interesting head.
He came up to Seattle. This composer brought him out, to play some shows, and like he showed up at the club, and he had spent the entire week before that camping somewhere out in the Northwest, roughing it by himself. And so then he had carved like these drumsticks out of branches, right? And so he played the whole gig on these like two tree. What? No. But that's awesome. Wow, that's very cool.
He has a musical and spiritual mentor that he was sharing with me. I don't know if I'll probably slaughter his name, but he's a guitarist named C.G. Munoz. And he's played with some heavyweight jazz people, but he's probably Jeff Richmond would love him. You know, he's like, he crosses over boundaries, and I think he's from a spiritual family in South America. And yeah, that led me into a lot of interesting, you know, connection lines, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think I'll send you his name too, because I think you would really be intrigued by his playing. Really interesting.
Okay. Sounds great.
So, on the way out, I'm going to play. It's terrible video. I'm just telling you right now, terrible video, but from one of our first gigs at the Oyster House, just because
Wow.
you can hear what's going on. It's
Yeah.
really wonderful. Actually, maybe I won't even play the video. Maybe I'll just play the audio, you know. And on that, ladies and gentlemen, have a great day. I know I'm actually going to see my grandson for his 8th birthday.
Amazing.
So yeah, I have two boys, 8 and 4, and 2 girls, 8 and 4.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, so and I didn't even have any kids. Pretty good,
Yeah.
right?
You bypassed the whole thing and went straight to grand
Exactly.
way to do it.
Yeah. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Gary, you can stay if you want or not.
Get out.
Okay. And this is, again, The Moment. I have to open my door, too. Perfect timing. Okay. Here we go. The Moment. Oh, what the heck. I'll show the bad video, too.
Yeah, let's do it.
Indian warrior. Since first I met you, I can't forget you. Cherokee sweetheart, child of the prairie. Your love keeps calling. My heart and cross. Oh gosh. I'm sorry, that was just too fun.
That's a great video. I love the angle. Because if you put it on TikTok, it would be a great hit. They all look
Really?
like.
I don't do TikTok. I don't even. I'll send you the link.
Okay, yeah, I don't either. My daughter does, so maybe she can put it on her.
Oh. Well, thank you.
Thanks, Cathy. Thank you, everyone.
Have a great day, Gare.
All right, you too.
Thanks. Bye, everybody.